Madhava Kunya Viharati Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Nityananda Sri Advaita Radha Sivasari Gaura Vrinda Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Jai Om Krishna Paramahamsa Maravacharya Ostutera Satashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Shira Prabhupada Ki Nandagoti Vaishnav Vrindacha Amacharya Shri Astaku Prem Se Guru Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vedanta Shivasani Gaur Bhakta Vrindacha Shri Radha Krishna Govinda Snayam Kunda Kunda Kiri Govardhan Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Jai Ki Jai Sam Ki Jai Yivunamai Ki Jai Srimati Vilasade Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gora All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Haribo. Okay, so the demigods, just including what we're doing. So, welcome to the third session of the Ethics, Morality Seminar, Ethics and Morality of Krishna Consciousness. And before we begin, I just want to ask one question of you all here. Who here, this is going to be a strange question, I'll probably get criticized for it, but who here has seen Star Wars? Raise your hand. See Star Wars. Good. Very good. So, if we finish being ethical today, finish with our ethics class today, tomorrow I wanted to talk about, do a little presentation about Star Wars and Krishna consciousness. Would everybody be interested in that? All right. There's one nay here, the rest yay. And it's a very interesting presentation explaining how Star Wars is related to the Ramayana and Mahabharata and how the theme of the Star Wars, this is a little too bassy. This is too much bass. How Star Wars, anyway, it's basically using the same, what we call archetypical characters as the Mahabharata and Ramayana. There's reason for it. And it's a very interesting presentation. If we have time for it, we'll use a PowerPoint presentation when we do it. Very, very interesting, and even conservative devotees will like it. Yes. Hyper-conservative, super conservative devotees, of course. I'm on the liberal side, and we have conservatives. Okay, so we'll continue. Om Ganat Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Vedikam. Yena Tasmai Shigave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my divine spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge, while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, I just want to ask a question of all of you. Why is the study and application of ethics important for us in the Krishna conscious movement? Can anyone remember what I was talking about the last 2 days? Hare Krishna? Yeah.
People will respect us.
People will respect us. Another reason? Is there another reason? Yes.
Become more truthful, authentic.
Yeah, authentic, truthful.
Because it brings us to know the goodness, and without more goodness we cannot go to ourselves.
Very, very good. And that's what, also there's another reason. It's a pretty good strategy for keeping the devotees working together. Because Prabhupada was interested in love and what?
Cooperation.
Cooperation and love and trust too. And so to have cooperation and love. Sorry about that, I'm something else. So to have cooperation and love, you need to have trust, right? In any relationship, and once trust is broken, you can't put it back together again. All the king's horses and all the king's men can't put trust back together again. You don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, can't do it. So yesterday we left off talking about different dynamics or challenges to ethics within our movement and within society at large. And we touched upon, I think, 4 or 5 of them.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
If there is prayashita for everything, including killing the Brahmana, why can't we have prayashita for breaking trust?
Yeah, you could just circumambulate Tulsi. Yani kani chapapani brahmahamsa digani cha kani dani pranishanti pradakshana vede vede. Okay, ooh. Yani kani chapapani. Great! Actually, we do have a prayaschita in the Krishna conscious movement, and that is mentioned in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Does anyone know the verse of our prayaschita? Starts with Tasmat. No, it's very important. One of the real nutshell verses in the Bhagavatam. Tasmat Sankirtanam Vishnor Jangan Mangalam Angasam Mahatama Pikaravya Vidyakati Ganishkadam. This is the answer that Shukadeva Goswami gave to Maharaj Parikshit when Maharaj Parikshit was very concerned about the hells in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Shukadeva Goswami was testing Maharaj Parikshit in different ways. And Maharaj Parikshit did not accept the standard prayaschita. So Shukadeva, because it was like the Kunja Shochara, the elephant bait. So ultimately the chanting of the holy name. However, there's something called sitting on the strength of chanting. And if you take a service from the holy names and just keep doing the same thing, It's not going to work. Prabhupada gave the example, and I mentioned this also in Boston, if you remember when I was giving the class. In America, we have this game called baseball. It's a game that very few people get hurt in. It's not like your football here. And you get to swing, not at a person. You get to swing a bat at a ball. And if you, just to make a long story short, if you swing 3 times, you're out. In other words, you're out for the right thing. You can come up like an hour or 2 later to go to bat. So Prabhupada said, sinning is like baseball. Then once you do it, Krishna, forgive me. Forgive me, Lord, I know not what I do. And then the priest, or the Hare Krishna devotee in this case says, or Krishna says, you are forgiven, my son. Okay, great. Next time you come back, same thing. Forgive me. Okay, you're forgiven, my son, but don't do it again. Third time you come out, you're not swinging, obviously. And Krishna says, that's it. You weren't sincere. So, of course, ultimately, God never keeps giving us, or never stops giving us mercy. But it may take some time to come back to the original position. So, in light of our own spiritual progress, and also in light of the movement, especially those of us who have taken initiation, especially second initiation, we're representing the movement. I mean, I take this as a great responsibility that, you know, I have this position, sannyasi, whatever, or Brahman, and I understand that whatever I do will reflect on Srila Prabhupada and his movement. So I'm not going to take any chances or, you know, take any shortcuts and things like that. I even drive my car at the right speed. Unless I have a radar detector. In America, we have this thing called a fuzz buster. That means it's a radar detector, so you can tell when the police are there, and you slow down. So we have no such thing in relationship to Krishna, that we don't have a detector to detect when Krishna is there, because Krishna's there all the time. So we can't just slow down. All right. Stop drinking when Krishna comes around. Or like when the devotees first joined the movement, there was a donut shop, a coffee shop, right near 26 2nd Avenue. And Srila Prabhupada would walk by there. The devotees were eating things there, which is against Srila Prabhupada's instruction. So when Srila Prabhupada walked by, they would go down like that. So Prabhupada wouldn't see them. You can't do that with Krishna. Krishna, it's not me, you know. I just do. You can't lie to Krishna. Or you can lie to Krishna, but you won't get away with it. Okay, any other questions before we go on with the different types of challenges we may have? No? Okay, yeah.
About the trust, you said once you break the trust, it's never gonna...
It's never the same.
It's never the same, but back to things. We are human beings, we make mistakes, so even if you break the trust of anyone, so he will never trust us. Even if we break the trust of anybody, he will never trust us again.
No, we make mistakes. Yeah, that's a fact. But if we're honest, we're talking about truthfulness right now. If someone said, did I see you going to see Star Wars the other night? And I said, no, it wasn't me. It's like one time, well, now this is confession time for me. One time, myself and Rina Nandamars went to see Lord of the Rings. And we dressed up in Western clothes. And we took a natural snack with us. We took, you know the carob that grows on the trees? So we didn't want to buy anything. So we were sitting there, we went on a date together. So we didn't hold hands, don't worry. So I was just thinking, I was just thinking, what if someone sees us here? And he said, don't worry, this is Beverly Hills. No devotee ever goes to Beverly Hills. Another time I went with, now it's confession time for me. Another time I went with Jai Pataka Maharaj, you're like this one, to Disney World. And we were going on all the rides, not the roller coaster. Actually, he invited me. It wasn't my idea. He wanted to see all the different things to try to do some things in my way. It's a bona fide spiritual reason. So we were going through all those different rides.
So it was research.
It was research, yeah. We justified. But we didn't wear the Mickey Mouse hats or whatever. So, I told you it'd be fun. So, anyway, but that doesn't break people's trust because I'm being honest about it. You know, if I'm dishonest, that's what breaks the trust. If I say, you know, I did this, please forgive me, you know, that doesn't break the trust. I mean, of course, there's certain times, in certain relationships that may break the trust, like a marriage relationship if the man is unfaithful or something like that. That's something different. But if you try to hide something, not tell the truth, if we're truthful about our particular situation, what we've done. I mean, for example, if I just go and tell you all that I'm an absolutely pure devotee, I've seen Krishna, I come from the spiritual world, it's true. But sorry. I can't laugh at my own jokes. So, then it would break your trust. You know, so I should be honest about my position in Krishna consciousness. Of course, then you'll probably think I'm just humble. So that'll increase my prestige even more. So it's a catch-22. I can't figure out what to do about it. So anyway, so honesty is the important thing. We all, I mean, maybe not all of you, but we all have some issues, mistakes like that. Just be honest about it. You know, make a mistake. In many cases where there is a court case, I know in America there were court cases against different personalities, including one time the President of the United States. What actually made people angry was the lying. For example, you had one President of the United States, Bill Clinton, who had a relationship with a lady. And when he was asked about whether he had sex, you know, he defined, in his mind, he was defining to slip out of it sex in a different way, right? He said, no. And you know, if he just said yes, you know, please, you know, I made a mistake, you know, Hare Krishna. Everybody would just chant Hare Krishna. But by his being untruthful, you know, the earth won't bear the weight of a sinful liar. That was the problem. I think so many presidents and prime ministers have had trouble like that. But when one lies, that's it. That's the line that you can't really cross. Just be honest. With yourself, too. I mean, one of the problems I see with devotees, myself, is that we're not honest as far as our own spiritual position. We think we're more advanced than we actually are. Oh, I'm with the gopis, I'm with whatever. But actually, just, you know, realize who you actually are. You know, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of course, he's taking our position. In his poem of Gopinath, he says, "Oh, Gopinath, I'm a materialistic rascal, And what's the harm of thinking of yourself like that? There's no problem. If you think of yourself as elevated and you're not, you got a problem. But if you are elevated and you think of yourself as a materialistic rascal, it's a good idea. There's no problem with that. So, better to tell the truth. Understand? Only be truthful, yeah. Just like when you come to me and say, Gurudev, I'm not going to follow your instruction. I'm just teasing you. Or I didn't follow your instruction. Doesn't mean that happens like that. At least you're truthful. I can appreciate that. Or I can't do this. Does everyone understand that point? Truthfulness is extremely important. It's the last remaining principle of religiosity in Kali Yuga. And if we are truthful, people will respect us. Even if we're not perfect, people will respect us just for that. Okay, I think we've got quite a few points to cover. So we're going to go over some of them. I don't have time to go over all of them. And we're going to ask you for some examples of how these different issues, problems arise due to the challenges I'm going to mention. One of the challenges that we run into with morality and ethics is called role morality. In other words, people think, if they have a position of leadership or something like that, that the rules don't apply to them. Do you ever have that happen?
Yes.
Don't give me any practical examples. But just like I mentioned before, the President of the United States, or Berlusconi, oh sorry I mentioned that, in Italy, the rules just don't apply to them. So this is a very common thing. I've seen it in the movement, that you get a high position, you think, well, these poor peons are more advanced, I can take the money from the till, that means from the donation box or something like that, and it's fine. So that's a real problem. We should be very careful, especially if you have any position. Another issue that arises is called loss aversion. In other words, you could lose something. Can anyone give me an example? And then you lie because you're preventing yourself from losing something. Actually, that, you find people violating morality more because of that than people want to gain something. Can anyone give me an example? I'll give you one example. My own life. One time I was driving and I was going over the speed limit. I lied before when I said it was going over the speed limit. So I was going over the speed limit and the police pulled me over and I said, my speedometer only said 50. Actually, it did. And please forgive me. I got out of it. Because I didn't want to get a ticket. Getting a ticket means in America your insurance goes higher. So that's called loss aversion. Has anyone ever done something like that? Yes. Raise your hand if you've done something like that. See, you got a few honest people here. To avoid getting lost in something, or getting someone to disrespect you, or whatever, you may tell a little white lie. It's considered a white lie. Here's a big one that we find in ISKCON. It's called obedience to authority. And we're not talking about the Nazis in World War II, where they just said, I was following my authority. And still, they have to go to the Nuremberg trials, isn't it? Or, of course, here in the Balkans, too, you had similar things like that. So, we found that, I think we can give an example in this guy. Some of you might have an example of this time when that occurred. Anyone? I mean, I have examples, but I'd like you all to participate. Mother-in-law?
People who told, someone, leave your husband, leave your wife, and, they did it not because they thought it was right, but just because their authority told them to. It ended up to be a catastrophe.
Yeah, and that happened quite a bit in the beginning. There was even one a couple that was told basically to turn their little kid over to the temple president so that the lady could go on sacrament. You know what I'm talking about. And the temple president locked the child in the closet the whole day. Terrible, isn't it? Just following authority. Another example is sometimes the collection techniques. I was traveling with one party. I didn't do this, but I was taking care of this party's deities. I mentioned this to you before. And every day the brahmacharis would come back with TVs and all sorts of big stuff. And I asked the sannyasis who I was a brahmachari at that time, how do they get all this? And they said, well, people just donated it. And then people were asked to, on this same traveling party, to make money by stealing gold pens from people and things like that. So, and the interesting thing is that a lot of the people who were doing that under following authority, later on, they didn't really come back to normalcy. You know, there was always this cheating tendency. Because if you go out, let's say if I go out and in order to make money, distribute books, whatever, I cheat people, then when I come back, I'm really not going to be able to distinguish when I'm dealing with the devotees. Prabhupada said it's difficult to catch a big fish without getting wet. So that's another reason why we have to tell the truth all the time. So here you see there's several examples of this kind, and some of you might have experienced them. And just having an authority tell you. And also, even insofar as one's own health and welfare, sometimes an authority will say, just do this service, do this service. You say, I'm sick. I remember, here's an example. I was at a farm community many years ago. I won't name it, it's never done. But anyway, I was in a farm community. And the leader there, I had fever, very high fever, and I was lying down. And he started beating me with a stick.
To get well.
He said, get up. The best way to get up, to get well, is get up. I had no choice, or else I would have been black and blue all over my body. So I had to follow the authority now. So it's a real big problem when one becomes an authority. One should be independently thoughtful. Prabhupada said blind following is condemned, and absurd inquiries is human. It says this in the Gita. Prabhupada wanted independently thoughtful people. So if you're asked to do something that's against your ethical principles, don't do it. Or question it. Very, very important point. Because as we go on, either in the Krishna conscious movement or regular life, or have a job, the boss asks us to cook the books, in other words, take the accounting and change it, we're going to have so many challenges like that. It's not that every leader in the Krishna conscious movement is going to be ethical and asking us to do the right thing. You should always be thinking of doing the right thing according to your own ethical standards. Be true to yourself. Okay? Does anyone have any other questions about it? Obedience to authority. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. Oh. What if authority asks you to do something that is ethical and moral, but you just don't do it?
Well, then you just say you can't do it. I mean, you may not be able to do it well.
Yeah.
Or you may be overstressed and get sick because he's asking you to do too much and too many hours a day of service. You got to take care of yourself. I mean, if I listened and did everything that I was told, I'd probably be dead right now. So, basically you're responsible for your own health, spiritual health, material health, etc., like that. And sometimes people will say things, do things, or your authority may say things that really may not be helpful in that way. You have to take personal responsibility. Of course, don't be defiant towards an authority, be respectful, be cooperative, etc., like that. But blind following should never be there. Any other questions about blind following or following an authority? Yes, you have a question back there.
Thank you. What is it that, for example, like temple authority, like it's kind of like a blackmail. Like, we are like dependent, our existence is dependent on the temple, for example. what if the authorities using this dependence from us in order to like do maybe something that is not.
That's called loss aversion, which I covered before, which means we're trying to avoid losing something, like losing our sustenance, place to live, and everything like that. Then in ISKCON, we do have hierarchies. In other words, if a temple authority says, go out and steal some money, whatever, or and then we can go to the regional secretary, GBC body, and ultimately we have a justice ministry, alternative dispute resolution in ISKCON. We have so many different systems, yeah.
Yeah, but to go through all that, it takes some time. Person might be like thrown out of the temple or something like that.
Well, we have email nowadays. You can consult. I'll send you a few euros so you can have food to eat in the meantime. Yes?
How to distinguish that our motivation is good, because sometimes an authority tells us something that is out of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
We can moralize it, or especially because this is another culture, we can say this and that. How to see that we are not right?
Yeah. We should have, mentors or friends in the Christian consciousness we can discuss it with. But ethical violations are pretty clear. Like stealing, cheating. This is what I'm talking about right now. If the authority says, do arting, and you don't like to do arting, you should do arting. It's not going to, no one ever died. Well, people have died on the altar, but anyway. You weren't going to die. You waited some insects, paralyzed. But it's very clear cut. We're talking about extreme cases. Not just it's outside my comfort zone. I've been asked to do a lot of things outside my comfort zone, and it was good for me. First day I joined the movement, the temple president, first of all, the temple president to get me to join, it was in 1971, he said, you can be the temple treasurer. After I counted the $5 in the temple account, he said, now it's time to do sanctuary. And I said, what, me? He said, get out there on the street. And it was good for me. That discipline is part of, growing up in Christian consciousness. Brahmachari, Gurukule, Vasantanta, Guru Archya, Dasavan, Mitchell. It's kind of nice. And I'm happy I did that. I went out and I was scared to death the first day. But, help me in Christian consciousness. So that sort of, surrender is good. But if he said, go out there and sell some drugs or something like that, that's where it stops. So it has to be something really radical. Or if you see the temple president, having a harem, that means a bunch of ladies coming and staying with them. Like in New York, something, not a harem, just one girl. And nobody reported it. They just thought, this is I guess a pastime. Something he's preaching. And then they thought something like that.
It was so much worse than that.
It was worse than that.
So much worse than that.
Yeah, I'm just being very light in my discussion. And they actually thought the temple president was an incarnation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Isn't that true? They thought that. So it's, just think clearly. I mean, these things are obvious when someone asks you to do something that's unethical. Not just outside your comfort zone. Okay, so any other questions about that particular one? Running out of time. Here's a big one. It's called intangible victims of our unethical actions. Now I'll explain what that means. Let's say you cheat an insurance company. So you don't really see the victims of that particular action, right? It's just like, it's just a company, an insurance company, big company like that. But actually, there are victims of that because basically people's insurance policies will go up anyway. And if a lot of people do it, then it will change things dramatically. So, but we see that nobody's going to get hurt. You ever heard this excuse when you do something? Nobody, it's just a bank. It's just the insurance company. It's just the tax department. Cheating on taxes is a big thing, isn't it? I know in some countries, not here, some countries, most of the economy is black money. That's number 2, it's called. And so, I think no one's getting hurt. Yeah, but the government has no money to carry out its functions, and we're part of this society. Like even Jesus Christ, does anyone know the quote from the Bible?
Render to Caesar what is Caesar's and render to God what is God?
Yeah, render to Caesar what is Caesar's and render to God what is God's. In other words, we should be honest citizens. I mean, obviously, don't pay too much taxes. Don't think, government use my money. But if you're being honest, follow the law. You're part of a society. You're taking advantage of of what we call the infrastructure. So when you don't see the victims, you're more likely to be unethical. That was the point. What's that? Pay the camp. You may say he has plenty of money. Talk about you. But pay your dues to the camp. Render unto God. Render unto God what is God's. Render unto Madhava what is mine.
Bigger donation this time.
He's Caesar. Yeah. Yeah. That's also unethical. That I'm saying. I'm saying that because he'll reciprocate with me more. It's called brown nosing. Anyway, so here's another one. Here's a big one. And I'm going to give a practical example from the Balkans about this. There's 2 things that are connected. One is called moral license or moral compensation. We talked about this before. And let me explain what it is. Moral license means I do so many things good. I'm a great devotee. I got up early for Mangal Arati, offered puja to my deities. Now I can do something bad. Because, it balances out. That's moral license. I got a license to sin. A license to kill. And then moral compensation means I do something bad, and then that's the opposite side of the same coin. Does everyone understand that? I do something bad, and then I do a lot of good things just to compensate. I'll give you a practical example. There's one person here, not in the room, don't worry. But you may know who I'm talking about. He runs a pornography site on the web. Horrible. Horrible. But he compensates by being overly moral on the web. And finding fault in just about everyone. Probably I'll find my name up there tomorrow. But anyway, no names. There's a practical example I experienced here in the Balkans. Someone's really bad. Or let's say someone outside of this guy. Ever heard of the mafia? In Italy? Don't ever be kissed by a mafioso. That means he's going to kill you or they're going to kill you. That's how they mark their victims. Well, what they do is they build a lot of churches, don't they? They give a lot of money to the church. So they compensate for their activities and they think it's all right. So we are so spiritual, so we got a lot of good things to compensate for by being bad. Think about it. We're Krishna conscious. We're the best. We're spiritual. I'm doing a lot of service. So what if I cheat? It's just from those karmis. I'm liberating Lakshmi. Bringing Sita back to Ram. Right? Hanuman, I'm just like Hanuman. So, doesn't work. Not a good idea. Be good all the time. Does anyone give me an example of moral license or moral compensation? Yeah.
What's happening now in ISKCON that sometimes devotees use EU projects to do something and they don't do it properly. So it's also stealing from the government.
Yeah. And because they're devotees, they feel they can do it because they've done so many good things. So, we're not just referring to leaders, we are talking about us. With this moral license, moral compensation. Because of our position, we think we can do things that other people can't do. Go for red lights, I don't know what else devotees do. So, yeah.
If you work for a temple, and let's say you're supposed to work 4 hours, but the temple makes you work like 6-7 hours. So you think, I'm doing more than I'm expected, so I can take some boga, some food, which is not mine, and use it for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another issue. But that's moral compensation. However, yeah, moral license actually. But it's also another point that we find that people become immoral or unethical when they work too hard or they're too tired. So that's, from another angle, the devotees who are managers should understand that. That when people are pushed too much, people working under you are pushed too much, there'll be a tendency, there could be a tendency for them to do something unethical. Because they're feeling so bitter and mistreated. So as managers, if any of you managers, keep that in mind.
That includes parents.
That includes parents too.
Then we are all managers at that point.
Yeah, if they're pushed too much, they get bitter, and they could possibly act unethically. Not necessarily that they will.
Simply say we will not be part of Hare Krishna movement because you are pushing us.
Exactly. Okay. We got overworked employees. I already did that. Another big one is everyone lies. Everybody lies. You hear this all the time, isn't it? And I was just dealing with this with the case of a young man, and I was talking to the parents, and this young man was going to school, he was having a test, and he said to his mother, I'm going to cheat, or he real he was going to cheat because everyone in the class lies. And his mother said, no, I don't care, even if you get a C, this is very important, even if you get a C in the course, that's all right, if you tell the truth. And everyone else lied. And, I guess he didn't do too well in the course. But the mother was proud of it. So we have to reinforce truthfulness. Not let people use that particular excuse. Everyone else lies. There's another thing, this is a very interesting one that I've done. It's called a fudge factor. Fudge factor means we just adjust our scores on Sankirtan or something like that. I haven't done that in Sankirtan. But I used to do that before I joined the movement. I was working as a scientist. And doing experiments means you come up with data. But I knew the results I had to come up with, even if the results I was coming up with weren't there. So I changed the numbers. So they all fit within what we call a bell curve. And then the professor said, really nice experiment you did. Everything fit very nicely in the bell curve. So that's called the fudge factor. So we just take a few. I got a lot more than this. Here's another one. Lying for others. In other words, we're not lying for our own benefit, but actually people lie more for others than they lie for themselves. Can anyone think of an example of that? Anyone want to raise their hand? Tell me. Yeah.
We lie to somebody who is dear to us. He has done something, and then people are after him, and we say, no, he didn't do night, but he's very good. This is just a small mark on him. Usually in case of leadership or something like that, if you're sentimentally connected with somebody.
You often see this in families too, that's good. That one brother will lie to protect another brother. I remember when I first joined the Hare Krishna movement, I guess it's like a confession time. We did something we were not supposed to do. We went out and we bought some peppers. You know, nothing bad. Peppers, because in the movement we weren't getting these green peppers to eat, so the three of us, just three brahmacharis, went out and bought peppers, and then we were asked, where'd you go? Well, we were preaching. I was protecting them and protecting myself. Anyone else think of an example where you lied or someone else has lied for others? Yes?
Parents lie for the children.
Yeah.
School. The child doesn't want to go to school for some reason, and then is how she or he was sick or something.
Yes. Parents for children is a big one. There was recently a picture on some website of some test being given in India. I don't know if anyone saw this, but the test was on like the third story of the building. And the parents, it was a picture from the outside of the building, the parents were scaling the wall of the building to pass. It was one of the funniest pictures I've ever seen in my life. You had at least 50 parents scaling the wall of the building to give the answers to the kids. So, of course, for a parent, it's easier to lie for your child than to lie for yourself. So that's another big one. Here's actually a interesting one. Creative people are more likely to lie. Because it actually fulfills a need for creativity. I'll give you an example. Let's say you want to watch a film on the internet, and you're really into computers like me. You'll figure a way to download it without paying for it. You understand? Has anyone ever done that? Yeah, so many people have done that. So that if you're creative, I mean, just like the other day, anyway, I mean, it just shows we're all fallible. Just like the other day, there was one film, you could only rent it on the internet. So I wanted to figure out a way to save it. You understand? Rent it, and then it disappears after 2 or 3 days. So I figured out a way to save it on my computer. It took me about 2 hours to figure it out. But it was a challenge. So when someone's creative, they take it as a challenge to be unethical. Can anyone relate with that? You know, those of you who are creative persons, it's just like if someone challenges you by some rule, you're going to figure a way to get around it. Any other examples someone has about that? Yeah.
I would be late from the going out when I was in high school, and then my mother would wait always for me, and then I will find some excuse. Each time there will be some other excuse about this, and then she would say, "Okay, this is a good one today." She knew that I'm making excuses.
Yeah, because you were creative.
Yeah.
Every time you come up with a different excuse. Good. Good luck.
If you promise to someone that you will not tell anybody what he has done, and someone asks you, so you have to lie in both cases, because if you say you won't say you lie to him, but then if you say there is not you lie to the other people, so what is moral dilemma?
Well, you just said, there are so many moral dilemmas, but just jokingly you could say, I promised that I wouldn't tell you. That I wouldn't tell you. I understand you. But there's moral dilemmas. Like the time Grandfather Bhishma definitely had a moral dilemma and he chose the wrong thing. Mother Amelia, a question?
Yeah, well, you were just talking about the pleasure of breaking rules. And I was just thinking about Krishna. That Krishna is the rule maker. You know, but he seems to delight in creatively breaking the
Yes.
rules that he makes. You know, he could just not make those rules. Do you follow what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
he could simply have a different standard of morality whereby what he wanted to do was okay. But even in the spiritual world, he creates this yoga maya where he's breaking the rules. And he has all these interesting and creative and funny ways to do that. So because Krishna does that,
Uh-oh.
yeah, because Krishna does that and we are part of Krishna, it seems that we have inherent in us
Yes.
some strong tendency to enjoy breaking rules.
Well, I would say in our... That's an interesting question.
Sorry about
And
that.
no, that's a good question. One that I've never had
I
before.
mean, you're the one who brought up.
Yes.
It's your fault.
Yeah. I would say, especially in our contaminated state, that we are trying to imitate Krishna, then we do that.
But do we need to have that fulfilled in some way? I mean, is that...
Yes, the way it's fulfilled is by appreciating Krishna breaking the rules. If you, just like we talk about, if we appreciate Krishna's dalliance with the gopis, that can free us from the lust, hearing from the right person. So we all have that tendency toward, those loving exchanges in the material world. When you hear about Krishna, or you see Krishna's beauty, that takes care of it. How Krishna is the greatest rascal. And then we can be free from those things. But basically in the material world, this is what we're talking about in the material world, because also we have Krishna's associates in the spiritual world who are very tricky. Extremely
We
tricky.
also have saintly persons, you were talking about Srila Prabhupada tricking a few people also.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about Radharani and Ishwar. I don't know if you know the story.
Yeah, tricky.
And how Prabhupada got Radharani and Ishwar. So I thought even here among saintly persons, there's something.
Yeah. No, Prabhupada is very creative. He didn't lie though.
No.
He took, the line is what we're talking about
So
specifically.
is there a way in Krishna's service in this world that we can satisfy that natural propensity without
Yes.
being unethical?
Yes, being creative insofar as how to spread Krishna consciousness. For example, and being aware, let's say I was just talking about technology. So, being aware of utilizing things in a creative way. For example, they just came out with something on Facebook called Facebook Live. You're probably familiar with that, right? You're not. Too bad. 50% of your life is wasted. So immediately I took that as a way to broadcast my classes live. And then one of my disciples, Gora, who you probably know, she understood how to take it, and she's getting, listen to this, sometimes 10, 20,000 people listening to her talk about how to be Krishna conscious every day. So she's using her creative tendencies, and I am, in a smaller way than her. I'm envious that she's actually much more successful than me. I just get a few hundred people watching me. She gets 10 or 20. Seriously. So we can use that. Prabhupada said, he gave a functional definition of the Mahabharata in the Upadeshamrita. He said that someone who's always thinking how to spread Krishna consciousness, being creative in spreading Krishna consciousness. And of course, someone who never falls down, too. So that's in Mahabharata. So I think we use that propensity like that.
Could you feel like I'm breaking the rules of Kali Yuga and feel that?
Yeah, obviously breaking the rules of Kali Yuga and spreading Krishna consciousness.
I'm tricking the personality of Kali.
And sometimes it is required to be a little devious, like when Bhakti Tirtha went to Eastern Europe, and he was just like sneaking around trying to avoid the KGB in order to distribute Srila Prabhupada's books. But Prabhupada himself has said one has to be very careful. He used the example of catching a big fish without getting wet. So we have to be very, very careful if we're going to stretch the rules. And we should do it under advice of other devotees too. So, any other questions about that particular point? Yes?
Mahabharata war is full of breaking the rules and stealing.
Yes.
For the right cause.
For the right cause. First of all, Krishna started breaking the rules when the other side did first. It's not that Krishna initiated the Mahabharata. Most of Krishna's rule breaking is done in Vrindavan. Outside, he tends to behave himself. That's why I usually tell devotees, do not take Krishna as a good example. Krishna in Vrindavan is a horrible example for you. And so when he says, Yad Yada Charity Shreshtas Tatate Vetaro Janaha, he's not in Vrindavan when he says that. I don't think he would say that in Vrindavan. So, yes,
I have an interesting point that I love about Krishna in Mahabharata. When Karna is asking him, please do not shoot at me now because I cannot get the chariot wheel from the earth and this is not dharmic, then Krishna responds to me, oh, now you remember to think about dharma. You cannot now call dharma to protect you because where was your dharma when you were trying to destroy Draupadi?
Yes, sir. So, in the Mahabharata war, you find that Krishna wasn't really breaking the laws of dharma because when the agreement was broken by the other party, Krishna started pulling all those tricks. And also, even when Krishna encouraged Arjuna to kidnap Subhadra, that was dharmic. Because it wasn't dharmic to force Subhadra into getting married to Duryodhana. I mean, Swayambara means what? She chooses her own. And in those days, kidnapping a woman to get married was perfectly all right. Not nowadays. We don't have that type of marriage ceremony now. Yeah.
My question is, so we say that we tend to lie for others, and so is this moral, not moral? What is the comment like with everything else?
Generally, it's not moral to lie for others. Anyway, there's certain circumstances, overriding circumstances like we gave, perhaps in Mahabharata, Grandfather Bhishma, etc. like that. But usually we don't find ourselves in those circumstances. I would say 99.9999% of the time. Don't lie. You're protecting someone's life? Yes. We don't follow the advice of Shukracharya as far as lying, right, Mother-in-law? Shukracharya said, it's all right to lie when you're talking to a woman. It's not. You should tell them. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He had his issues with Lord Vishnu. Okay.
Maharaj, what if is it lying when you, how to say, you don't tell something? Like somebody's asking, who did this? You just are silent.
Yes. Yes, that's also lying. If you know and you can help the situation, that's also a type of lying.
And to the other person, if that person doesn't ask, then you have done something good.
If you're hiding what someone else has done, you know, it's called whistleblower, you know you're supposed to tell it for ethical principles, you're culpable, you're taking part. If you see something unethical, immoral, illegal, and you don't report it, you're responsible. If you let it happen. Yes?
What is the difference between a creative telling the truth in some situation and manipulation? Sometimes the people say, this is
Creative telling the
manipulation.
truth. Give me an example of creative telling the truth.
Like in some kind of situation, we like the devotee, they give so many examples that we have to tell the truth in nice way. Sometimes to the parents, to the guru there.
Such a clear
not like that. But sometimes sound like someone thinking like we're doing manipulation. This is manipulation. This is not good. You have to be.
That involves your own personal integrity. Internally, you have to understand, you should understand, that you're being truthful and honest. I mean, it's very important for a devotee to maintain their integrity. Integrity means keeping things together. Because if you don't maintain it, you find yourself lying to yourself, you find yourself deviating from the moral or ethical or religious principles, even chanting your rounds every day. So that integrity is extremely important to maintain. You understand? Yeah.
I have one question about Mahabharata. How can we understand that Balaram as Vishnu Tattva supported the Kauravas, especially Duryodhana all the time?
The pastime. The pastime. And Balaram didn't, in the war, he didn't really take part. He just went on pilgrimage because he was just so frustrated with everybody. And he wanted to see things fair. So at the end, he was getting ready to kill Bhimsen. Bhimsen fought unfairly. Not because he wasn't taking sides in that whole fight between Bhimsen and Duryodhana. But he wanted to see things fair, and he was conflicted. But it was a pastime. It's a pastime. Uh-oh. Right. All right, just one final thing. I have so many things. I actually wanted to do this Star Wars thing tomorrow, but I just want to touch one final point. We have some, if anyone's interested in all these different ethical challenges, I can send them links. I can send them so much information. Email, please email me about it. There's a lot of things, but several things I want to mention at the end. That it's important for us to set up an ethical society. That means we have to keep reminding each other about ethics. There's been studies that when people are asked to remember the 10 Commandments and then given a test, practically no one lies. These studies have been done on the university. So when people are reminded continually about ethics, which we do have to keep reminding people, they're more likely to be ethical. And there's one psychologist, his name was Kohlberg, who developed the cognitive development theory. You don't have to remember what that is. He said, first we have to be obedient to rules. You start with, it's like Vaidhi Bhakti, and then you come to the universal principles of justice later on. Very, very important point. So we should, I have so many things. So we should, in the Krishna consciousness movement, have codes of ethics. Every temple, every community should write down. We think it's obvious, it's a no-brainer. We should write down and publish these codes of ethics. Just like in our GBC, we have these codes of ethics, and they're under everybody's, not under the table, but under the glass on the table that we sit at. You can read the code of ethics and code of behavior. Don't do this if someone speaks. It's more behavioral stuff than ethical stuff. But also, we have some complaint about someone, talk to them privately about it. Very, very important to keep reminding people about this. I think that was the last time. I have so many important points, but that's all we have time for today. Oh yes, and be conscious of how these ethical principles fit into your life's goal. Everyone should remember what their goal in life is. If you remember your goal in life, you're more likely to be ethical. If your goal in life is to be Krishna conscious. If your goal in life is to eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die, then forget about it. And keep reminding yourself about these universal principles such as truthfulness, loyalty, compassion, fairness. And using these principles, we can build bridges to other people, other religious communities, other people, and bring people to the Krishna consciousness movement. If we actually preach about these things, people will respect us and they'll come to us just because we're honest. And I've had many instances where people will hire a devotee who's honest because they trust that particular individual. Okay? Now, you have a quick question, and we have to end because, just one question.
In my days, we are taught to do everything as preaching etiquette.
Yeah.
So even if we do mistake today, we can go to those people 10 years after. And please, I was here, and please now I came to the senses, please accept this Bhagavad Gita and forgive me. So always second chance.
Yes, there's always a
So
second chance.
this is too complicated, Ivan Ashram, it's too simple. Everything as a preaching at least in my days it was like this. Now this is too difficult to follow.
Yeah, my days it was like
Simple
that
mind,
too.
simple mind. We have a Krishna simple mind.
Very good. Yeah, you can always go to people and ask for forgiveness. But don't do it again. As they say in the Bible, sin no more. Uh-oh. She's going like that. So, we're going to thank everybody for tomorrow. Actually, I can leave this here. This is the standards of conduct for the Center for Association Leadership. Just real quickly. Respect and uphold public laws. Be honest in conducting business. Respect the confidentiality of information gained through one's work. Act fairly. Foster an ethical culture through one's work. And take responsibility for one's conduct. So I'm not saying this is a be-all and end-all, but this is something that I believe every community should have, a standard of ethical conduct. Every community, every family, every individual. So, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai. There you go.